Some people buy flashy cars just to brag. Me! I bought mine to stay sane. After years of grinding, I finally gave myself the one thing I always promised I'd own before I left this world, a custom matte black McLaren. To me, it wasn't just a car. It was therapy. A trophy. My personal symbol of peace. And what better place to enjoy it than a quiet, gated community where neighbors seemed more obsessed with their lawns than with me. At least, that's what I thought. Because peace never lasts long when you park a dream car in front of people who hate their own lives. But before we get into it, tell me in the comments what country are you watching from. Let's see how far this story reaches. Now, you might think the villain here is your usual HOA Karen with too much time on her hands. Not this time. My story's villain was Randall, a self-declared HOA cop. Not a real officer. Not even on the board. Just a middle-aged wannabe enforcer with a neon vest and a fake badge he'd probably printed online. And Randall didn't waste time making his presence known. One morning, I found a letter slapped onto my windshield. Not polite. Not professional. Just pure Randall brand insanity. Scrawled in angry handwriting, it read, "Your car is a threat to our community. It's too fast, it scares children, and it violates the spirit of peaceful living. Remove it within 2 weeks or face consequences." I laughed so hard. I had to take a picture and save it in a special folder on my phone I call HOA Clowns. Surely, this guy wasn't serious. I wasn't speeding. There were no rules against owning a McLaren. And the only dangerous driver around here was Randall himself, tearing down the street in his beat-up Dodge Charger, screaming at kids to respect the rules. But by day 15, things escalated. Coffee in hand, sunlight warming my face, I stepped outside only to freeze in my tracks. My McLaren wasn't scratched. It wasn't dinged. It was wrecked. Windows smashed, tires slashed, paint stripped like someone had taken sandpaper to the entire car. It looked like it had gone through a war zone. As I stood there in shock, my neighbor Denise crept up and whispered, wide-eyed, "I saw Randall with the landscaper last night. They were messing with your car." I thought it was strange. Strange? No. This was criminal. But instead of blowing up, I smiled. Why? Because Randall didn't know about my porch light security camera. I pulled up the footage. And there he was. Randall, hammer in hand, ranting about neighborhood safety while destroying my McLaren like a man possessed. That's when I called my lawyer. Randall thought he could bully me into getting rid of my car. Instead, he bought me a brand new McLaren on his dime. When I showed my lawyer the footage, he laughed and said, "This guy thinks he's Watan HOA cop." Then he told me to forward it to the police. The damage was easily in the 6-figure range. This wasn't a prank. It was a felony. But Randall wasn't done embarrassing himself. The very next morning, he banged on my door like he was serving a warrant. There, he stood, vest, sunglasses, clipboard in, hand trying to look official. "You've ignored official HOA directives," he barked. "Your car endangers the community. I have the authority to enforce action. Consider yourself fined." I nearly spat out my coffee. Fined? By who? The HOA handbook doesn't mention anything about cars. And you're not law enforcement? His jaw tightened. I am law enforcement for this community. If you don't like it, leave. That's when I decided to poke the bear. Funny, because I've got video proof of you committing felony vandalism. Unless you're planning to fine yourself, I'd suggest you back off. For the first time, Randall's face drained of color. Then he stormed off, muttering something about calling the board. 2 hours later, I was dragged into an emergency HOA meeting. Randall had pulled the board into his circus. The president, a woman named Marka, tried smoothing it over. Let's be reasonable. Randall was acting in the community's best interest. Maybe the damage was excessive. I cut her off. There's no maybe. He destroyed private property. And you're defending him? That's when another board member spoke up. Technically, Randall isn't on the board. He just volunteers. volunteers. That was rich. So, not only had Randall destroyed my $250,000 car, but the HOA had never given him authority to do anything. That sealed it. The police would handle Randall. And my lawyer. He'd handle the HOA. By the end of the week, cops showed up at my driveway. They cuffed Randall right there while neighborhood kids pointed and laughed. But believe me, this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning of Randall's downfall. My McLaren wasn't just damaged, it was totaled. My lawyer filed charges. Vandalism, impersonating an officer, and criminal mischief. The impersonation charge alone was serious, especially since Randall paraded around in a fake badge and vest like he was auditioning for cops. HOA edition! When the case hit court, the footage spoke louder than anything else. The judge leaned back, pinched the bridge of his nose, and said flatly, "Sir, not only were you unauthorized by this HOA, you destroyed property worth more than most people's homes. You're looking at prison time." Randall's attorney tried spinning it, but even the HOA board abandoned him. Worse, homeowners turned against the board itself. Once people learned it allowed Randall to act like an enforcer without any official position, a petition spread like wildfire. Within weeks, the entire HOA board was dissolved. Randall, he didn't just get convicted, he got ruined. Ordered to pay restitution, legal fees, and damages. He lost his job, his credibility, and eventually his home. By the time the dust settled, a brand new McLaren gleamed in my driveway. Meanwhile, Randall trudged past in a faded hoodie, forced to live in a rental across town. Every time neighbors saw him, they'd smirk and joke. "Careful, Randall might write you a ticket." I didn't have to do a thing. His reputation was destroyed. The HOA was gone. And my story became the neighborhood's favorite cautionary tale. As I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, the sun setting behind my car, I couldn't help but think. You can dress like a cop, act like a cop, pretend to be a cop, but the moment you pick a fight with someone ready to fight back, you'll regret it. And that's exactly what happened to Randall. So now I'll ask you, do you think justice was served? Or did Randall get off easy? If someone totaled your car, would you press charges or handle it another way? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to hear how you would have handled Randall. The end.